Okay, so hello everyone. Very happy to start this sixth global free webinar. It's always a big joy to welcome everyone, especially because it's a webinar that includes people from all over the world. We've started this series of webinar because of the the launch of our book, Inclusion Around the Clock. This book was created by 13 different authors to celebrate the Pluribus 10th anniversary. So let me very briefly introduce myself. I'm Isabelle Pujol. I'm the founder of Pluribus. I'm based in Brussels. And Pluribus is a global network with nearly 60 diversity and inclusion facilitators around the globe. And I'm very happy today to have Magda Barcelo, who is a senior Pluribus associate for many years, together with Gerard Jara, to talk about the chapter of the book, the chapter that she has written, which is really the D&I as a catalyst for the evolution of the organization. So we are very interested, curious to hear not only more about your chapter, Magda, but also how this is translated into practice with the organization of Gerard. So the floor is yours, and thank you again for hosting this sixth webinar.
Thank you, Isa. Thanks for the invitation, and hi everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here sharing this time with all of you. And here's Gerard Jara, the CEO of the food group Candor, and he happens to be my husband too. And we've been working together through Pluribus, supporting the organization evolve and grow. And so we have the format of this webinar is going to be a Q&A, so very dynamic, hopefully. And before we start, I'd like to say that the point I made in the chapter of the book I wrote was about how diversity and inclusion strategies were factors that fostered naturally the evolution of the organization. And here, in this call, what I would like to explore is how, by being intentional about the evolution of the organizations we work in, and engaging in any strategy, diversity, inclusion, but others, we can indeed have the organization evolve. So it's a little bit like the other way around, a different way of looking. And the exploration hopefully will be fruitful because Candor is a very diverse group. So the first question I have for you, Gerard, is would you please tell us about the Candor group and how diverse it is?
Sure. Hi everyone, and thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you guys. And Candor is a food group specialized in limited source food products. We have three divisions. One is artichokes, the other one is extra virgin olive oil, and the other one is nuts, mainly cashews. And overall, the business is about $350 million in turnover, and our team is close to 1,000 team members. We have offices here in Europe, in north and south of Spain, in France, in Italy, in Georgia, and also in the US, in California, Washington state, and also in the East Coast, North New York, and New Mexico actually. And then we have an office in Mexico, another one in Peru, in Shanghai, and then obviously all of our sourcing teams in West and East Africa and South Africa as well, emerging with a new investment project in agricultural. So we talk, we're talking about different continents, different countries, different people, and different backgrounds. So, the diversity is something we embody quite as well in my own personal life, since my dad is from Peru, my mom is from the north of Spain, and I've lived all my life here in Catalonia, and so we consider ourselves a diverse group. So that's, I hope, an answer to your question.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. So thinking more about the strategies you have implemented, the reference to diversity and inclusion, and more intentionally supporting the evolution of the organization. How did you start this journey in the group?
How much time I have, Magda? I'm not sure.
Well, we have some time.
Some time. Okay, but not okay. We founded the company. My business partners and we all come from a professional background. So we did not inherit the business from our families. We founded it from zero, thanks to our previous professional lives. So we gained experience by working for great companies before, and at some point we said we want to do this on our own. So from the start, we wanted to do something different. We wanted to build a company that we would love and have joy working. So from an intuition point of view, we had that non-traditional approach to management as a start. However, as we grew, the first very few years were just fun because there's few of us, and there's you talk with your partners and you are alike, and the culture just gets passed just by talking to one another, and people see you working, and so you do it without even being conscious of it. But as we grew into having different teams in different countries, and particularly hiring people and hiring mid to top level people, that's when we started to see that the culture was diluted in a very dramatic and rapid way, to the point that in 2013, I remember clearly that I was not having fun anymore. I was starting to see things that were telling me that we were just going to be another company, and at some point I thought I do not want to be a company I wouldn't like to work for, and it looks like we're getting there. So 2015 was a click for me in that side, and other personal and professional things coming into play as well. So all the difficulties just all at the same time came together. So it was a very difficult year for me, 2013. Very difficult. So without getting too much into the detail of my my process there in 2015, to your question, Magda, something happened when, through Pluribus, you guys introduced me to the reinventing organization frame. Because all of these intuitions that I was having and we were talking about, which it was extremely difficult for us to make sense of, or to at least try to explain, all of a sudden, through that book, and became like this is it. This is a great way, or this is exactly what we need. This is what makes sense for what we're trying to do. And it gives us ideas, it gives us practical ideas and a very clear frame of work. So that was a tipping point for me on the approach for changing the organization, or to at least start a different, more conscious approach to how to manage the culture in the company.
Excellent. So what I've heard is that so you went through this company growth, the company got bigger, and the culture was somehow diluting. Mm-hmm. And as you started to realize that this was a company with a culture that perhaps you wouldn't like to work in, so had this feeling something's not going well, it's wrong, but not knowing how to approach it. And then so you found this through Pluribus, you found this framework, and this kind of like shed some light on ways on how to really create a culture that you want. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
And in a more concrete way, could you give some examples on how did this turn into concrete strategies?
Yeah, you know, I was lucky enough to be exposed to you know, you and to the frame of your work, and the first steps on identifying what would make sense for us and start doing things was very difficult. That moment was very difficult for us because I remember I was starting talking about wholeness, about self-management, about evolutionary purpose as those three main bases on which, you know, the TEAL organizations are based on, and loved it because the one that we had been intuitively more close to was the wholeness approach. Self-management, where we were kind of depending on the location, doing terribly bad or actually very good, and the evolutionary purposes was almost impossible for me to explain what would it mean. So you know, I remember I was, you know, starting to talk to, you know, executives and in team groups in gatherings about these concepts: wholeness, self-management, and evolutionary purpose. And you know, I was so excited about this that I created somehow a disconnect between what I wanted and what it was possible. And so you guys came to lead me on specific strategies to implement some specific programs that would lead to the practice of wholeness, of self-management, and later on evolutionary purpose. And to your question, what specific things did you or did we implement as strategies to get there? You know, I can mention 3 or 4. We started on coaching programs for executives, and so this continues today. We particularly focus on the integral school of coaching, and the coaching that, you know, it's offered, you know, through you. And the company offers this program to anyone that would like to do a personal coaching program, and it's absolutely personal. It has nothing to do with business. The company doesn't know and doesn't have to know, and we don't ask what the program is about. It's just a personal coaching program. We pay 3/4, so 75% of the cost is on us, 25% is on the employee or team member, and it's been very successful. I can say that maybe 10% of the people that have done it have had not a so good experience, because probably they wanted to do it because it was available, but they were not ready truly to do it. However, 90% has been incredible. Another program that we did was trainings specific on reinventing organizations. So without trying to tackle all of the complexity of the 3 bases, wholeness, self-management, and evolutionary purpose, focused trainings on one of them and specific strategies on or practices that are happening on other companies that are doing it. So just having that exchange helped the teams that participated in those trainings to have a visual of other things that other teams are doing successfully. And those were very, very practical, very, very, very easy. You know, when we talk about these, you know, it may sound like a complex thing, but when we talk about doing training on self-management or on wholeness, you know, we touch on subjects as getting aware of yourself, getting aware of others, and practice and dynamics to leave those awareness. So, you know, very successful experiences. And the interesting thing about this is that we got an additional result from these trainings, which is that the team just all of a sudden gets closer, you know? So you're not trying to do a team building thing, but all of a sudden you're building the team. Now, another practice that some of the top executives in the company, I mean, top and not so top, I mean, all a little bit of everything, participated in was the coming into your own programs. This was limited to women in the company, and you know, both in Europe and in the US, we had some participants. I cannot talk too much about it because once again, it's a personal program, so there is no reporting back to me or to anyone about what happens in the program. It's the trust that it will be useful for them, and you know, I can talk about whether I've seen any differences on the participants afterwards. And you know, I see clearly a growth. You know, whether this particular specific growth comes from this very specific program or the ensemble of the programs, you know, we can talk about, but there is something happening, you know, and that's the beauty of it. Then we also, you know, I remember we've done many trainings on the right use of power as well, and this has to do more with a little bit with wholeness, but particularly with self-management. Right use of power frame of work has to do with understanding the roles that we play, the power roles that we can play, and how we interact and how we relate to other powers. Like when it is that we are on a down role or down power or up power. And there's two things that I like to mention on this one. The one has to do with learning a common language. So the participants, we all of a sudden share the same, or we share a way to refer to specific issues in a way that makes it easier for us to address the issue. And this may seem easy for you because you guys are in the, you know, you consult and you train, but they are not that simple or that evident. They were not, at least for us. Little concepts like holding the space. So when you start to understand what does that mean, then all of a sudden it becomes easier to actually do it, rather than trying to do it without knowing what the other one is trying to do. You see, and that has to do with practical action on self-management. You know, getting aware of in which position of power you are, so you can actually take ownership of your actions and, you know, manage and make decisions. You know, so those are examples of things we've done, and, you know, strategies that we've helped with. Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. I'm called. I have some curiosity regarding something you've said that at the beginning when you found the framework, and you got so enthused, and then all of a sudden you were in conversations with other people, and I know also internally, and the reactions from others were diverse, and sometimes this framework, it seems like it either creates like a direct buy-in, so people just like jump into it and just love it, or creates distance and resistance. Could you speak a little bit about this?
Yeah. We experienced both. We still experience both. In one hand, there's this many big group of champions that just you know, start to see and you know, through a personal experience, start to realize what an incredible opportunity this is for the company, for the team, and for ourselves, for oneself, to develop our own potential, and then we go. So in that group, the most beautiful thing I can share with you is that every single person that's been there, there's no going back. No one wants to go back. You know, that's something that in an intuitive level validates the path we are, you know, trying to practice. Now, on the other hand, there's resistance on very basic concepts, both on wholeness and self-management. It's difficult, it's complex for me to talk about them fully because I have the temptation to simplify what they are. For example, resistance on wholeness has to do with, we do not show weaknesses, or but it's more complex than that, so I want to be careful not simplify. And self-management, all the fears about, is someone going to take advantage of self-management and do, once again, it's a little bit more complex than that, but it's a very clear example that we deal with, as issues on this. Also, the lack of the direction at some point could be another issue that, as a result of it, comes into the organization. Because when somebody is setting such a clear direction and specific actions in every single area of the company, then you may agree or not, but you know what to do. But when you take a step back, and that clear direction seems to dilute, everybody gets very uncomfortable and say, I don't know if I can do this, or who is to say, who is to decide, so it's a complex process. Yeah.
Thank you. So I have another question I'd like to ask you, but before that, and given the time, and since we're going to have plenty of time for questions from participants, so I'd like to start inviting participants to write their questions in the Q&A folder. It's the first time we use this little thing, so we'll try it, see if it works. So yeah, if you have a question, please write it down, and we'll address it in a little while. And the reflection I'd like to ask or make as participants are thinking about their questions, it's sometimes we've talked about this, right? So the three breakthroughs that we talked about, it feels like, so one can take it as an ending point, or you can take it as a metaphor, and depending on how you take it, it may change how people live it and how people experience it, how free people that work in the organization feel to co-create the organization. So I don't know, am I clear on the?
Not so much.
So it may seem very easy to, that, okay, so we are an organization and we diagnose ourselves to be in that level, orange likely, or green, and our goal is to move to TEAL, because TEAL is the top, and embrace the three breakthroughs, and it seems as one destination, right? Whereas another way of taking it is to see the three breakthroughs and the TEAL as more of a metaphor, and saying, okay, this is more of an inspiring framework that we can use, but then each organization has a distinct purpose, a distinct timing and pace of getting to things. So,
it's the second, it's the latter, for us, and you use the word company, each company. Actually, for us, we are the same company, but we have multiple locations in the world, and for every single location, it changes. Early on, I was on my the inertia on trying to make sense of everything, so all right, we're going to do this in this company, in this group, and everyone in this group is going to be in this level, and then at some point I realized it's futile, and started to focus on location, not business, because there's many locations that handle many different businesses, or 3 or 4 different aspects of the business. So it doesn't matter, it's by location. Mm-hmm. So I can I know which locations are champions on these particular practices, and some of the locations that are not so much into them. To be fair, profit results are not linked to one or the other thing in our experience. Okay, we've never looked into profits or losses as a way to evaluate whether one is better than the other. We don't care about we don't put the focus on we do this to make more or less money or we don't want any money, but we don't do this to make less to make more profit. So every location is different, and leadership in every location, and the way that people and team members, the courageousness of people in its locations, and the eagerness and their backgrounds and cultures, it's fascinating how it changes. Also, one thing that I like to share: smaller and bigger groups as well. There's a big difference. On smaller groups, you tune in easier, and there's more opportunity to just work together as a whole. When the big becomes bigger, it's so much harder, so much harder. So,
I have some question actually, Magda and Gerard, and some comments. I mean, first of all, it's very inspiring to hear Gerard talking about his approach. I think it was very brave to challenge the status quo and just say, okay, this culture doesn't work for me, and I will, together with my management team, I'm going to really radically change and address and choose a new approach. So that's very inspiring, because you could have continued, in the old way of doing things. The one thing I found very interesting is when you were talking about the personal coaching and the fact that it was an offer where it was very personal, and so personal to the extent that your employees or manager had to pay for part of it. And that's very innovative. Usually in organizations, the company is paying for the 100% of the fee. So what was the reaction, when you initially introduced that? So that's my first question to Gerard, and then I have a question for Magda as well.
We've had no negative reactions to it. Isabel, I was the first one to do that coaching myself. I wanted to do it so I understand what it was. And I understood that this was a personal commitment. So, the intention behind that is to be personally committed to it, even if it's a fourth of the cost. And it's been very well understood, very well supported. We have only had one case where the executive from a different country, lower pay, said, listen, even 25% is quite a lot for me. And then in that case, we supported it regardless. Because, it was, international coaching programs are about the same, so they're not. So, that was one specific case. But it was very well received, very well understood.
Thank you, Gerard. It's really something that we tend to recommend as well to our partners and clients, to at least explore that possibility. I think for empowerment, for self-responsibility, for higher commitment, when you have to invest also, from your pocket, then sometimes it has a positive impact. So that was very encouraging and inspiring to hear your story about that specific action. Magda, I have a question for you. Just thinking maybe of some of the people who are listening and seeing this webinar who maybe have not yet read your chapter. I wonder whether you could give us some insights about how did you come along with the work of Frédéric Laloux, and what are the different organizations, because we heard a lot about the TEAL organization, but I think it would be maybe interesting to hear what are the journey? What have been the journey so far of the other organizations?
Sure. Thank you, Isa. Yeah, so the work from Lalu, well, I train as an integral coach with New Ventures West in San Francisco, and this was 2013, I think, and then, you know, I have been exposed to Ken Wilber's work without getting much into it, integral framework, and I don't know, there was something there, but I was not really, you know, just deepening in the message and the understanding until I took this program, the coaching program. And then, you know, it was like finding gold, like all of a sudden for me, like I could understand my work as a consultant, you know, I had been doing for 8 years, you know, I could see the coherence and all the different spheres where I was working and the impact I was having. So to me, integral framework was you know, very, very powerful, just for myself, to understand myself, to understand the work I was doing, to look at the world from the integral lens. It's very powerful. And then, you know, we're living in Boulder, and I have some friends in the Bay Area, and, you know, they had talked about this book, and one day I decided to read it and I created a reading club at the Integral Center, and, you know, so we read it collectively, which made it more powerful. And after that, you know, I could see how powerful it was, right? And then, you know, the book itself created a movement. This movement is alive, you know, it keeps spreading, and I think it's, you know, it's a book and it's a frame that, because it's simple and it's grounded in companies that are working with these principles, that are embodying these practices, it makes it much more powerful. So it's not something theoretical that has no grounding, or just like it's a good idea. But so I think that the genius of Frédéric Laloux, when he wrote this book, it's like, you know, these companies are international, these companies are big, they are successful, and they are doing all these things related to wholeness, self-management, and evolutionary purpose. So that's, you know, my story with the book and the movement and the practices. And then I'd like to talk about the chapter I wrote, which has to do about, okay, also reflecting, okay, the work we do in diversity and inclusion, you know, how does relate to the evolution of organizations, you know? And then so looking empirically about the things we do, which is, you know, supporting the culture, empowering managers to see their biases, their unconscious biases. So in a way, are supporting leaders grow, and then knowing that there was a correlation with diversity inclusion work and the evolution of organizations, and how no matter in what point, in what stage of the evolution of your organization you are as a company, you know, you may benefit from diversity inclusion trainings at any point.
Thank you very much, Magda, for this piece of context. So I also have another question for Gerard, because you know, Gerard, when you talked about this notion of profit and loss, and you say it's not, you know, we are not, you know, focusing. Of course, you need to measure, you need to monitor, but that's not your overall purpose. And yet, with the work that you do on the culture, this, you know, this three piece of work you do around the personal coaching, the training, and all the action will have a positive impact in your profit and loss ultimately. Because the thing is, you know, when we're working with clients and partners, the first question we have is, what's the business case? What will be the plus for us in terms of even the financial performance? How would you deal with, you know, did you have challenges to sell the idea to your colleagues or to your management team? And what would you do to other organizations?
Yeah, Isabel, you know, I have to acknowledge the fact that I sit in a quite comfortable position to be, you know, leading, you know, this effort. because ultimately, I would be the one creating more or less trouble or more or less support to any investment or any expense or any such programs. However, you're right. I mean, even from some some top management, in particular finances, I had to push the button and say, listen, this is what I want. You see, this is what I want. This is ultimately what I believe is going to help us, fulfill the purpose that we have as a company. And so I can understand in other positions, in other situations, the need to show a business case. Now, what you just said, whether we don't measure, the direct impact of these programs, I wouldn't know how to measure it actually, but I'm sure there's smart people in the world that would find a way to measure it. But we, the impact is absolutely positive. Sometimes, there's this temptation to try to isolate one cause and one effect, and there's this many causes around and the complexity that then end happening in a way, or makes things happen in a way. So that's where we are. I mean, the fact that we are training and receiving tools to deal with relationships with ourselves, with complexity, with the need to be the need to make decisions and to feel well about them. It's absolutely positive. We couldn't fulfill our purpose without these tools, basically.
Thank you.
Great. So I was checking the Q&A box, and there does not seem to be any question from the audience. Well, if we don't have questions, I have something I want to ask you about. It was about one of the last things you said before Isabel asked, and you said, each region or each office is different. And so there seem to be like microcultures in each division or in each location. So in a way, it seems that basically what you're doing is like you are creating the conditions for something to happen. You're creating the conditions to invoke. I'm not sure if it's invoking or evoking something, and then so you create the conditions. You give resources for people to get coaching, trainings, but then it's up to them to take it or not.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's exactly like that. I'm tempted to make a joke, but to tell a joke, but I'm gonna refrain myself on that. The fact that in every location there's actually a mini culture or a subculture within this bigger frame, but that the opportunity is there for anyone to take, and then it's actively reminded, and in time, over time, things happen, and there's and that's what actually as well validates the path, from our perspective. The pace at each location is different, and learning to be with that is also part of the process for us, management or ownership, if you will. Not easy.
And you said something about as long as they are actively reminded, right? And that made me think about how do you remind people and how do you engage them in sharing what they do, right? Because like sharing creates more awareness, more consciousness, which in a way cultivates. So do you have any structures like set up for people to share, or is it more informal? How do you remind people?
Well, there's gatherings for every single group annually, like big gatherings, 3-4 days, where we discuss not so much business, but also the state of things, what's working, what's not working, etc. Then there's also a timeline file where we share every single event globally, so everyone through the internet can see that, for instance, if you are in Spain and there's an event in California, they post it, and then you see that they've done something, an event as a group, and they've done a training, they've done something. So there's stuff happening, and you can see, and then that gives you permission to also do something in your location as well. You see, and then the other thing as well has to do with any occasion I have, and the more and more, this trickles, to use our purpose and values to frame any kind of discussion. And then, the first value we have is, we communicate to the world through our products and services. The second one has to do with we build open, authentic relationships through communication. And then that value allows for training, practicing, and and that's where all of these trainings are allowed, and that's kind of the reminding thing, or it's present, but there's an intention of making it present. Yeah.
So when you say there's an intention of making it present, it's I imagine like in meetings you can refer to this value of sharing authentically and then encourage people.
Yeah,
you do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and also this training, for instance, a coaching program or a CIO or a reinventing organization training is supporting our value of building these authentic communication, authentic relationships through communication. So yeah.
So the trainings are not so connected to the 3 breakthroughs, but more to your values.
Yes, this is how it is now. Yeah, it's actually it's working very well. Yeah, because then you do not debate so much about whether you agree or not on one of those 3 things. That was sometimes could be the issue. Now you are already into the value. So it's
more
it's
your
very,
DNA. It's like, hey,
exactly.
It's your DNA.
And we all share the values. There's no discussion about it. Yeah. There's discussion about what they mean. How can we make them better? Or does this mean this? The nuances. That there's a beautiful discussion there, but it's not about questioning. So it's very constructive. Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Isabel, have you received any question or?
No, I didn't receive any question, and I'm not too sure whether the technology is following us on this Q&A technical point. No, I just would like to again to thank Gerard for his testimony, because I think that you are a really inspiring CEO who is walking the talk. That's really, for me, the main insight from this conversation. Walking the talk, and you are really personally, emotionally, intellectually leading the change in your organization, making sure that there is some common language. I think you mentioned that. And making sure that people are totally in line with their key values. And the key values, whether they are personal key values and your organization's key values. So it's, for me, it's inclusion. For me, you are really putting inclusion into practice in the way that you are motivating and engaging your employees and your managers and yourself. So the key word, there are 2 key words for me, really. It's the notion of inclusion and the notion of congruence. being congruent, in total coherence between your values and how you do your business on a daily business. So it's very inspiring to hear that, and I'm so happy that thanks to Magda, who was the first to be involved in this work from Frédéric Laloux, that Pluribus was introduced to that approach, and our intention really is to talk about it more often with all our different partners and clients all over the world, because they will all benefit. So in fact, your experience, Gerard, I mean, we would love to be able to multiply this kind of experience with a lot of organizations, because they will definitely benefit because of inclusion and congruence. And I think people, will be always happier, and then ultimately will perform better if there is this notion of feeling included and being in coherence with their own values. So thank you for that. So thank you, Magda, and thank you, Gerard. I don't know, Magda or Gerard, if you want to.
I just want
to. We are closing.
I just want to say thank you for the time, and just share, once again, that I feel very lucky to have had been exposed and introduced to all of these very practical work that you do, and it's been an incredible resource for me, and it's been it's still an incredible resource for all of the team. So extremely lucky and appreciative of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Isabel, and thank you, everybody. Oh, there is one question. There's a comment from Jamar. Okay, thank you, Jamar. We love you too. And well, thank you, Isa, for the opportunity, and thanks the audience for your attention.
Thank you. And as I said, this video, this webinar is being recorded, so we will be able to spread the good news to a lot of people around the world, and they will probably be inspired by the conversations that we had today. So really thank you for that. And very soon, because now every month goes so quickly, it will be the next webinar, which will take place on the Friday, 30th of June at 2:30 Brussels time. It will be hosted by Daniel Stein, who is our UK and Ireland Pluribus director. And he will talk about his chapter focusing on inclusion as a driver for innovation. So, be tuned. We will send you all the link for the next webinar. Do not hesitate to follow us on Facebook, Twitter. We are having a lot of amazing work at the moment in the Middle East, with a series of unconscious bias workshop in the US, in various parts of Canada and all over Europe. So a lot of things going on to ensure that we're building more inclusion in the workplace and ultimately in the world, with the new executive coaching on diversity and inclusion, on a link between mindfulness and inclusion, a lot of new learning interventions to support all organizations to, again, to be more inclusive and for a better world. So I'm going to close. I'm really grateful to Magda and Gerard for this beautiful conversation. Thank you for everyone who was participating to that webinar, and all the best for a beautiful weekend for all of you. So thank you very much.